You know, it's just kind of who I am. I want to pour into my team as much as possible, and I'm pretty in tune with my body. I can read a room pretty well, and so when I see we're lacking a little bit, you got to step up. But if we're good, you know, you're just there to encourage and give people confidence.
What if I told you that a single rookie's paycheck, a figure approaching an unbelievable $50 million, was enough to spark a civil war inside a professional sports league? This isn't just about money or a record-breaking contract. It's about jealousy, respect, and resentment that has been brewing for years in the quiet, overlooked corners of the WNBA. And now, it's erupting into public, undeniable chaos. The league is at a breaking point. A schism is forming between the old guard who built the foundation and the new sensation getting all the credit for the finished skyscraper. And the entire controversy, the earthquake shaking the foundations of women's basketball, revolves around one name, Caitlin Clark. But the shocking truth behind the veteran outrage, the raw and unfiltered fury led by players like Sophie Cunningham, runs far deeper and far more personal than anyone on the outside realizes. This isn't just a game anymore. It's a battle for the soul of the league. A fight for history. A desperate struggle to not be forgotten. The story begins with a number, a figure so colossal it feels almost mythical for a rookie athlete in any sport, let alone the historically underpaid WNBA. Whispers and headlines have swirled around a $50 million empire. A figure so massive it dwarfs the career earnings of nearly every other player in league history. But the reality is even more complex, and, in some ways, more infuriating for veterans who scraped and clawed for every dollar. The most publicized piece of Clark's financial rise is her groundbreaking deal with Nike, a staggering $28 million contract spread over 8 years. Historic. A statement from the world's biggest sportswear brand. It includes her own signature shoe, an honor reserved for the most elite and marketable athletes on the planet. Think Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant. A rookie receiving a signature shoe before playing a single professional game sent shockwaves through the industry. It signaled that Nike wasn't just signing a basketball player. They were investing in a cultural phenomenon. But that was only the beginning. Gatorade, a brand synonymous with athletic greatness, signed her to a multi-year, multi-million-dollar deal. State Farm made her one of their flagship faces alongside Patrick Mahomes. Panini, the sports card giant, secured an exclusive memorabilia agreement, turning her trading cards into some of the most sought-after in the world. Add it all together, and the total value doesn't just approach $50 million. It comfortably surpasses it over time. Before scoring a single professional point, Caitlin Clark became a financial titan. This isn't just a contract. It's a coronation. It's a declaration from the corporate world that the rookie is bigger, more valuable, and more marketable than the league she plays in. And while boardrooms and fans celebrated, the players who bled and sweated for years to build the WNBA watched with gritted teeth. To them, this unprecedented wealth didn't feel like a victory for the league. It felt like a slap in the face. A silent storm was brewing, and it was about to find a voice. That voice belonged to Sophie Cunningham. A tough, gritty forward for the Phoenix Mercury, Cunningham built her career on hard work and physicality, the kind that doesn't make highlight reels but earns respect inside locker rooms. She represents the old guard. A blue-collar competitor who fought for her place and prides herself on toughness. Not a flashy superstar, a grinder. An enforcer. So when the media inevitably asked her about the rookie phenom dominating every headline, she didn't hide behind clichés. In what many interpreted as a direct and aggressive message to Clark, Cunningham made it clear. The veterans were not rolling out a red carpet. She spoke openly about the league's physicality, stating directly that the college game had not, and could not, prepare Clark for what was coming. Her tone wasn't welcoming. It was combative. Her words were sharp and unapologetic, painting a picture of a league full of predators ready to test, challenge, and possibly break the new golden girl who had been handed the world. The media machine, always hungry for conflict, instantly framed her comments as jealousy, a tantrum from a lesser-known player resentful of the spotlight. But dismissing her words as envy misunderstands the culture of the WNBA. Cunningham wasn't speaking only for herself. She was channeling the unspoken frustration of players who felt that years of sacrifice and struggle were being erased by an obsession with one rookie. Her statement was a warning shot, a signal to Clark, and to the world, that respect in the WNBA is not awarded through endorsement deals. It's earned through blood, sweat, and on-court battles. And what happened in the weeks that followed proved it wasn't just talk. To understand what the media casually dismissed as a tantrum, you have to pull back the curtain on the unglamorous reality of being a WNBA player before Caitlin Clark's arrival. For decades, these women have been elite athletes in name, but often lived like struggling artists chasing their passion. They flew commercial, a draining and often humiliating experience for world-class competitors. Imagine a 6'5" center folding into a middle seat on a 5-hour flight, only to land and perform at the highest level hours later. This was the reality. And now, suddenly, a rookie arrives on a corporate-sponsored chariot, crowned before she ever steps onto a professional court. Their salaries were so shockingly low that a vast majority of players, including league MVPs and champions, spent their entire off-seasons playing overseas. Russia, China, Turkey, grueling schedules, living thousands of miles away from their families just to earn a livable wage. They weren't just athletes, they were migrant workers. They fought for every column inch in newspapers that were 95% dedicated to men's sports. For every 30-second highlight slot on shows that would rather air a meaningless regular-season baseball game than a WNBA playoff thriller. They built the league brick by brick, with little fanfare, even less pay, and constant condescending criticism from a public that refused to take them seriously. Then, in what felt like a single moment, Caitlin Clark arrived and was handed everything they had spent decades fighting for. Massive endorsements that dwarfed their salaries, non-stop media coverage that reduced them to afterthoughts, charter flights they had begged for years, suddenly materializing for a player who hadn't proven a single thing on the professional stage. So when Sophie Cunningham spoke out, it wasn't just about Clark's talent or fame. It was visceral, a reaction to the deep, painful injustice of it all. The raw frustration of watching a newcomer receive the glory for a house she didn't build, while the architects were pushed into the background, treated like yesterday's news. It was a primal scream for recognition. Remember us. We were here first. We made this possible. That feeling of being overlooked, of becoming invisible in your own home, was the real fuel threatening to burn the league down. Sophie Cunningham may have struck the match, but the entire league was a powder keg waiting for a spark. Her comments weren't isolated jealousy. They reflected a chilling league-wide sentiment among veterans. Before Clark even played her first preseason game, WNBA legend Diana Taurasi, Cunningham's teammate and arguably the greatest player of all time, went on national television and delivered a now infamous warning. Reality is coming. She explained that college is a fantasy compared to the pros, where grown women, faster, stronger, and smarter, exploit every weakness. It was a direct message. Clark's record-breaking college career meant nothing here. But the warnings escalated beyond words. In a game against the Chicago Sky, Kennedy Carter delivered a blindside hip check to Clark while she waited for an inbound pass. A cheap shot so blatant it sent shockwaves across the sports world. It was ruled a flagrant foul, an act that had little to do with basketball and everything to do with sending a message. Carter offered no real apology, admitting the moment was personal, fueled by frustration over the narrative that Clark was the sole reason fans were tuning in. Cameras even caught her teammate Angel Reese jumping off the bench to applaud the foul, a visual confirmation of the underlying tension. That single moment exposed an uncomfortable truth. A significant portion of veterans resented Clark's fame so intensely that physical intimidation became part of the conversation. Suddenly, Cunningham's words didn't sound like a tantrum. They sounded like the verbal front of a physical war unfolding on the court, a coordinated message that the rookie would be welcomed not with open arms, but with bruises. And yet, the most ironic part of this entire conflict is the undeniable impact of what's now called the Caitlin Clark effect. Her arrival has been an economic earthquake. Arenas are selling out nationwide, not just in Indiana, but in every city she visits. Opposing teams are moving games into larger NBA arenas to meet ticket demand. Television ratings have shattered records, with some broadcasts surging over 200%. Indiana Fever games are now routinely drawing more viewers than established men's leagues like Major League Baseball and the NHL. The surge has brought tangible, life-changing benefits, even for the players who openly resent her. The league, long resistant due to cost, finally agreed to implement full-time charter flights for all teams, something veterans had demanded for over a decade. More viewers mean more TV money, more revenue, higher future salaries, better facilities, bigger endorsement opportunities for everyone. Clark is the rising tide lifting all boats. But that tide comes with a cost. While the financial gains are undeniable, the cultural impact has been suffocating. Media coverage has become almost entirely Clark-centric. Pre-game shows, post-game analysis, social media debate. Everything revolves around her performance, her struggles, her influence. Meanwhile, reigning superstars and league MVPs like Aya Wilson and Breanna Stewart are being pushed into supporting roles in their own league story. In interviews, they're asked more about Clark than about their own dominant performances, and that creates something toxic. A psychologically draining reality where players benefit financially from Clark's presence, while resenting the enormous shadow she casts over their own careers and accomplishments. They are getting richer, but they are also becoming invisible. This resentment hasn't stayed in locker rooms or hidden inside cryptic interviews. It has spilled onto the hardwood in the most brutal way imaginable. Caitlin Clark is being systematically targeted. From the moment she steps on the floor, she faces a level of physicality that goes far beyond the traditional welcome to the league treatment for rookies. It feels calculated, relentless. The Kennedy Carter hip check was the most blatant example, but it's happening almost every night, in ways both subtle and obvious. She's hammered on drives, bodied aggressively 30 feet from the ball, hit with bone-jarring screens clearly designed to punish, not to free a teammate. Defenders grab her jersey, hold her arm, shove her off balance, at a level veteran commentators have called unprecedented. Even more telling, and arguably more troubling, is how it's being officiated. Referees, whether through unconscious bias or an unspoken understanding to let veterans set the tone, have allowed an alarming amount of contact to go uncalled. This no-call culture becomes a green light. It signals that opponents can be as physical and aggressive as they want without consequence. This isn't just tough defense. It feels coordinated. The veterans are using the thin veil of physical play to send a message their words couldn't fully deliver. They are trying to prove, through force, that the media darling with the perfect storyline cannot survive the grind of the professional game they've dominated for years. Every bump is a statement. Every shove is a reminder. Every bruise is a message. To truly understand the exposed nerve Clark's endorsement empire has touched, you have to examine the staggering disparity between her off-court earnings and her official WNBA salary. As the number 1 draft pick, Caitlin Clark earns roughly $76,000 per year on her rookie contract. $76,000. Less than many first-year teachers or firefighters. Meanwhile, her Nike deal alone averages about $3.5 million per year. For every $1 she earns playing basketball, she makes nearly $50 from sponsors. Her endorsement income is estimated to exceed 500 times her playing salary. Now compare that to the veterans delivering the physical punishment. Sophie Cunningham, after 5 hard-fought seasons, earns around $150,000 annually. Respectable, but hardly transformative. Even the league's elite, MVPs and champions on maximum contracts top out around $250,000 per year. That means Caitlin Clark, the rookie, can earn more from a single Gatorade campaign than the league's most decorated veterans make in an entire season of grueling, world-class competition. This isn't just a pay gap. It's a different financial universe. This is the molten core of the conflict. The veterans aren't angry about Clark's $76,000 salary. They're reacting to the brutal, market-driven reality that her brand, her narrative, is valued exponentially more than their championships, experience, and leadership. It validates a painful truth. In this new era of the WNBA, story can be worth more than substance. This clash between Caitlin Clark and the league's veterans isn't just rookie hazing. It's a defining moment, a crucible. It will either forge the WNBA into something stronger, more unified, and more powerful, or expose fractures that threaten to tear it apart from within. The conflict reveals the awkward, often ugly transition from a niche league fighting for survival to a mainstream force wrestling with fame, money, and media saturation. The veterans' resentment, harsh as it may appear, is rooted in a legitimate fear of being forgotten by the very league they helped build. Clark represents a future so bright and lucrative that it risks blinding everyone to the sacrifices of the past. The question isn't whether Clark can survive the physical onslaught, and it isn't whether the veterans will eventually accept her. The real billion-dollar question is whether the WNBA can manage this explosive growth without imploding. Will this internal war over respect, money, and recognition poison locker rooms and alienate the new fans the league desperately needs? Or is this the necessary friction required to polish a diamond, forcing the league to confront its identity and finally claim its long-awaited place in the global spotlight? The battle for the soul of the WNBA is happening right now, on and off the court, and its outcome will define the future of women's basketball for a generation.